Alright, we're coming back. This is Cody Pickering. It is Saturday, January 4th, 2025 now, 12:33 p.m. And I'm here speaking with...
his Uncle Jay Pickering.
Alright, so, where would you start? If I'm going to ask you about this era, it doesn't have to be Vietnam specifically. That's where I started with.
Okay.
But then I started thinking about, like kind of what George was saying earlier, how much was going on at that time.
Right.
So I have loads of questions and a follow-up, but tell me, in your experience of that era, not only the war, but the culture, the music, the ideas, the society as a whole, where would you start your story?
Probably about the 9th grade in Rancho Cordova, California. Because the music was really... My mom got me and your dad an album deal. You got one album. She signed us up for an album, a record club. And we would pick one album a month, and that's when the Doors were coming out. I can see the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and it was in probably 60. I graduated high school in 67, so it was probably 64. That's when we first moved back from Lincoln, Nebraska to Rancho Cordova the last time, and that's the last time that my mom and dad moved to way later. That's where Bob could go to school. Graduated at Cordova High School.
So, alright, so that's where it starts. It starts in 9th grade with the Doors and the Beatles. It's funny that, well, first off, I don't see Grandma, or Doris, signing you guys up for a record club.
Oh, it was in the back of those little magazines on Sunday, and you could clip it out, and then you fill it out, and it'd come every month, and Bob would pick one, and I'd pick one. Well, he got all mine anyway once I went to war.
That's funny, because when I was growing up, when Dad was still in Chico, we had a CD club, where you do the same thing, where you chose a couple every month, and then they would show up. Yeah. I don't think my taste was as good then as it could have been. I don't remember if I had any outstanding ones that... Alright, so starts off in the 9th grade. How long were you in Nebraska for?
Well, we'd have to go back. Let's go back, since you want to know, to Okinawa in 1957. And your dad was born overseas in Okinawa. So we went from Okinawa, then we went to Los Angeles, California, in West Covina for 3 years. Then we moved back to Lincoln, Nebraska, to be close to my grandmother, and we did 2 years there, and that would have been the 7th and 8th grade. And Bob was a little fella, because he's 8 years younger than me, and I can remember him having to walk to school, because we all had to walk, because we only had one car. So Oroville would take the car to go to work out at the base, and Doris and I and Bob would walk. So then after there, how far did I get us? Am I in Rancho yet?
No, you're still in Nebraska.
Oh yeah, then we flew home. Dad retired. You get one last move from the military. Anywhere you want to go in the world, they'll move you there free. And Oroville chose to come to Sacramento, California. That's where it kind of really starts from, sort of. Okay. That was our hometown, kind of. That's where Bob was raised. He went to school there, all of his buddies. He was a Cordova boy for years. We came back in 64, so however.
So what, he was 7?
He was, yeah.
Why Sacramento? Do you know?
Oroville and Doris were stationed out at Mather Air Force Base, in Rancho Cordova in the 50s. And I was with them. That's when they got me in 49 Fort Dodge. And then from 50 to 53, from 50 to 56, we were stationed. Oroville was, he was a navigator instructor, teaching all the first lieutenants how to fly an airplane. And we were there for 6 years. And then we went to Okinawa. So Doris and Oroville loved the climate. Mom hated the snow. She didn't like animals. She didn't like smelly farms. No, she did. And so she really didn't like it when we lived in Okinawa because the bungo ditch was right down the middle of the road. Oh, that's tough. But anyway, so then I got out of high school in 67, tried to go to college for a little bit, a junior college. Didn't make it a semester without not getting anything done. And the draft was coming after me. So Oroville says, you better get signed up instead of go with the Army. You better go over here in the Air Force. So he took me down to Sacramento, and the U.S. Air Force recruiting officer. And the next thing I know, I was in the military 2-3 weeks, a month later. So,
wow, so you answered pretty much my next two questions. So you volunteered for, was there a specific part of the Air Force, or was it just...
No, they just gave me a battery of tests.
Oh, okay.
And then they came back, and for some reason I tested high in electronics.
All right.
So they made me an instrument repairman. I worked on anything that was on the dashboard, all the ADI indicators, all the turn and bank indicators, all the fuel quantity, anything that it took that was on the dashboard was our responsibility as instrument repairmen. So we changed a lot of, a part would go bad, pull it out, take it apart, put a new pull, a lot of R&R, remove and replace. They give you a problem, you go out and figure out what it is, you change the part, and it keeps going. So basically, and that's what I did. I went from Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, which is basic training. Then I went to Chanute, Illinois for 18 weeks of training. I think it was 18 weeks, I can't remember. And for electronics. And then they shipped me to Merced, Atwater Air Force Base. Castle Air Force Base, at Atwater, California. And right just down south past Fresno a little bit. Still there. So I was there for 2 years, and then my orders came to go overseas. So they shipped me over to Thailand for a year, and I was at 2 bases there. I was at U-Dorn for 9 months, and then they sent me to U-Bonn for the last 3 months. I don't know why, but that's what they did. And then, when it was my time to come home, the war had settled down by then, pretty much. It wasn't too bad. The bad years were 67 and 68, 69. But then I went to Castle Air Force Base in Marysville, and I finished out my enlistment there. And then after I finished my enlistment, RJ was born right before I got out. So he was born at Mather Air Force Base. It cost, so we only had to pay, I think it was $4 or $5. I can remember being mad at Deb because she had a cesarean section, so they had to keep her 2 extra days. So the other GIs were paying like $1.98, get their wives out in 3 days. and Deb's bill was $4 something.
Well, I think my buddy's was like 13 grand for one night.
Oh God. Okay.
A couple questions before we move on. You've answered like most of my next ones. But jumping back a little bit, so like right before you shipped out, what was like a typical day for you?
Right before I went out?
Yeah, I mean, within a few months.
Okay. Let me see what. I'd have been down there.
Or before
well,
you
you
signed
get
up,
2 weeks leave before you go overseas. So I remember, Deb and I just drive around Rancho Cordova, and we'd go down to the river, and I'd try to see if I could catch a fish. I was young. We didn't know what the war was about. I wasn't an activist or anything. I was kind of the shy kid on the block, so I didn't really know why we were over there. But now I figured it out. But I just went where the government told me to do, because that's how my father and mother raised me, was to do the right thing, don't lie, cheat, or steal. And so when it was my turn to come, I just followed orders. That's all you can really do when you get in the military, is follow orders.
Also, if you ever need to take a break, just let me know.
No, go ahead.
Pause it whenever. So you answered that one. So what was society like before you left or before you enlisted? Because this was...
Before I ever got into the service?
Because this was...
I would have been in high school. I graduated at 17, hung around, got a job, and worked at the old folks' home as a janitor, cleaning floors. And then I went and got a job. What the hell was I doing? Well, I worked for the chicken, and I worked at the donut shop, and I worked at the Mexican place. But
and so, what about society in general? Because this was like that summer of love.
Yes, it was the summer of love, and I was a little bit behind that. I didn't find out the summer of love until when I got older. But yeah, Haight-Ashbury was going on big time in the Bay Area, and I was only about 75 miles, however far it is from Chico to San Francisco now. Bob used to go to more concerts than I did, but it was. I ended up being in the hippie age. It was peace and love, and then and then after everybody came back and the war was over, everything mellowed back out again until the other Iraq. I don't know nothing about Iraq or any of that crap. I would say on the whole, it was pretty much, the reason I'm a baby boomer is because everybody had their own house, 2-car garage, a dog in the yard, and 2 kids, and you could do it on 1 income. Well, so those people were happy all the time, and then the rest of us hippies tried to be happy.
Okay.
What made you a hippie?
Yeah.
I wanted to be. I wanted to belong, I guess. I don't know. Everybody says I'm not a true hippie, but I wanted to be. I love peace and rock and roll and the dancing at the festivals and the girls all free and dresses going everywhere and oh my.
It's.
Did you feel though that, what were you trying to get rid of the norms of society?
Maybe. Trying to run away from Doris and Oroville holding me down so long.
Yeah.
Maybe. They were tight parents. We didn't get away with... Bob got away with murder. But I didn't get away with nothing.
It's funny. I didn't realize that with RJ, that's what, third generation of military.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then his son went. Your cousin.
One of them?
Logan.
Oh, I thought it was Logan, but
Logan
I
went
don't know
in the
why.
Marine Corps for 4 years. So we have Oroville, me, RJ, and Logan.
Wow. 4 generations.
4 generations.
So you kind of touched on this before. What was your outlook on the war before you enlisted or before you were deployed?
I really had no opinion at it at all. I know that sounds sad, but I just didn't really know what was going on. I wasn't educated enough. I was down at the river fishing. He said, "Hey, come on, buddy, you got to go over here. We're going to go kill these people." Thank God I didn't get in the army.
And, how did it change after you returned when you came back? Your outlook?
Well, first of all, I was glad to be home. But second of all, just trying to have everybody be kind of happy, be glad it's over with. You know, in the Civil War, they sang songs about everybody Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. Well, when we came back from overseas, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, whatever you want to call it, it's called the Southeast Asia or whatever, the Vietnam War. They didn't even want to talk to us. They didn't want to see us. They didn't want to pick us up at the bus station. They just said, that's why I think that part, I think, is where a lot of people did go hippie right there. Because they just said, okay, nobody wants us, well, why should we want somebody? So they all kind of migrated and got jobs, and some of them are straight-laced, and some of them are still living in a cabin in the mountains and won't come out.
So do you think a lot of people who joined the military became a hippie, quote unquote?
No, that's not right. I think the age that I was in, from, like 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, that's when the draft was going.
Mm-hmm.
Before the draft, when Oroville came back from overseas, it was just normal life for me. I mean, I just, you just played with your buddies and came home and by dark and ate and went to bed. But
those were the days.
Those were the days, man.
Go outside, come home before dark.
Well, if the street lights came on, we knew it was time to come in.
Yeah.
And it's not like that anymore.
So before I get into a bit more detail about when you were there, do you think that civilians had any idea of what, when I say civilians, but people who are not in the military, have any idea of what was what life was like?
Well, no, because there's no way they could unless you were there. I mean, I've seen cardboard box houses, babies, 1.5 years old, walking around totally naked, no clothes, in cardboard box downtown. And the base is only 2 miles away, and we got everything we need. So I didn't like that part. Taxi went down the wrong road one time, and it was pretty bad.
Do you think that what you came home to, all the negative, all the hate, had anything to do with a lot of guys getting PTSD?
It could be very well, yeah. Well, back then, when I got out of the service, I got out in 1971. Okay, January 71. And RJ was born in November of 71. And I got out January 72. That's what I got out January 72, because he was only 2 months old when I got out of service. So now I forgot the question.
That's all right. We're just talking about civilians knew what life was like. But my follow-up was, once you left, was it hard to reintegrate into quote-unquote normal society?
I don't believe so. No, I followed mostly all the rules. Doris and Oroville told me to make sure to be a good guy, and I kind of tried to be the best I could have been. So no regrets there.
No, not regrets. I don't think that has anything to do with the question.
All right.
Example, my cousin, who was basically my brother, when
Yeah.
he went over and he came back, he was a different person.
Well, yeah.
But he refused to discuss anything that happened.
A lot of people, I've heard that before, where a lot of people don't want to talk about it and nothing. Like Dan Quinn's dad was in the Marines when it was bad, and he came home when it was bad, and he saw some bad shit. But he never talked to Dan once about it ever.
I asked my neighbor yesterday if he wanted to talk because he's younger, in his 30s.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm starting this project, and do you want to talk? And he's like, no, I don't talk about it. I don't tell my family about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have these questions. Can I ask you? And just say
No.
pass, and just didn't respond. And I was like, okay. And I didn't want to push it. I mean, we had talked about it before, kind of.
No, some people that, especially the Marines and the Army, they're the ones that were carrying the guns, and they were the grunts in the field dying for us, and living in the mud and the bucking monsoons, and then the heat. The next day's 110, and now those people, they come a lot out of there with their minds. I got a buddy, Jim Cobb. He's all fucked up from it, and he's gone to extensive fucking counseling in the VA in the Bay Area, and they've tried, everybody's trying to help, and no, it's real. That PSPD or whatever it's called, PTSD, but we never knew what it was. We never talked about it. I never heard that thing. Oh, that guy's having a hard time because he came back from overseas. John Kroger came back. He was a Marine. He saw the bad shit. He was a grunt. He went in for a quick 2 years, and if you're a quick 2 years, you go to infantry right off the bat. So you're on your feet carrying a gun. Well, when he got back, we went to the, never thought anything. He picked his girlfriend up, and I had Deb, and we went down the park and watched the fireworks show. Well, as soon as they started shooting them, that motherfucker was all over the place. He says, I got to go home. I can't do this. I got to leave. I said, bye, see ya. And he had to get out of there. Couldn't do it. But those are the ones, they're called grunts, because you're brand new. You don't even have one stripe yet. You're just still a private. They hand you an M16 and a helmet, put you through a little bit of training down at Fort Dix, and run us over there. Like Jason Ferris's dad, that's what he did. He wanted it quick as easy. So he went for 2 years. Well, next thing he knows, in 3 months you're carrying a gun in Vietnam in the mud. But he was a truck driver. But still, you know what I mean? So those guys come out of there. Jim Cobb's still a mess.
And they're so young.
Well, yeah, I was when I was there, I was 20. I think I was 20. 49, 69, 71. I was there. Oh, 60. So I was 21. I was 21 when I was over there, but there were a few guys younger than me, but most of us around 19, 18, 21. Sometimes but in the Army, they'd take you at 18 and 1 day. Try to lie. They'd take anybody back then. See, because you get the draft notice in the mail. Well, then after I got out, they started the lottery up, and so then some guys could just, if they got a high lottery number, they could get through it legally, not ever go serve their country or anything, if they got the right number. Well, I didn't.
Are you glad that you decided to sign up rather than...
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't have a choice. The draft was coming after everybody.
Yeah.
You had to be 4F, which means completely unfit to do anything. Bad hearing, weighed 400 pounds, whatever it is, you can't do it, you're 4F. Or the other one is 1A, and that's school deferment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a 1A, you could, if you were in college full time, you didn't have to go. No, I didn't go. I tried college. I didn't like that, and I was fit as a fiddle, so I couldn't go the other way. So I said, well, let's go, get it over with. Help my country, I guess. I didn't think about it as helping my country back then. I just thought about it more as like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're trained for this. It's your turn in the barrel. Just go.
Okay.
You know, because when my dad, he went in twice. Am I getting off character?
No, you're good. I'm putting myself notes.
He went in the Army Air Corps. That's what it was first called, Army Air Corps, before they split. And he spent the first, I think it was 8 years. 8 and 14 is 22. He spent 8 years. He started out as a private and worked himself all the way up to Master Sergeant, which is the highest rank in the enlisted side. And then he got out, and then he went back to Nebraska and got a job at working for the railroad as a ticket officer. And he got a letter from the Air Force saying, hey, if you, because he tested really high, he was smart, and he had a little bit of college, not much, but he had a little bit. He used to milk 22 cows in the morning, 22 cows at night, every day. That's why he was going to put himself through. But they called him back and said, hey, we'll give you your commission, make you an first lieutenant if you come back. And so Dad did that, and that's when he married Mom. There's a picture right up there, getting ready. See, he's got those wings, that hat, that thing on his hat means he's a flyboy. He got his wings. So you can tell by their insignias what they are. Yeah. And then he went in for another 22, stayed 16 and came out with 24 years in service or something like that. Quite a while.
Crazy.
That's a picture of your dad up there with Mom. See that big round head in Doris's lap?
I might have to get closer.
That's your dad's head.
We all have huge heads. My head is gigantic.
Oh, he had a huge head.
With those snapback caps, I can only do the last one, maybe two to connect it.
That's funny.
All right, so I'm about halfway through on the questions. Do you want to take a break for a minute?
No,
or
go ahead.
Keep going? All right. So you started to tell me this. And I actually tried to record it on Christmas, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. What was a typical day like when you were deployed, when you were in Thailand?
Typical day. Well, I worked night shift, so we worked from 7 o'clock till 7 in the morning. So when you got off work, 7 in the morning, the runway was down the middle of the thing here, and we worked over here, and then we lived over here. So the bus would take you around and drop you off right in front of the NCO club. Imagine that. So we'd all get off the bus, go in the bar, 7 in the morning. Beer was 10 cents a can. Cigarettes were 17 cents a pack. And you had, some GIs didn't drink at all, and we just went home. But, we'd normally go in and maybe have one or two. And then we'd all go in and go to sleep. And then we'd wake up about 4 or 5 in the afternoon and run down, take a shower. The showers are in the middle of the barracks. And after we took our shower, we'd go over and maybe play pool or ping pong, maybe, if you felt like it. You go check your mail every day. Go see if you got any mail come in. And then you go to the chow hall and get something to eat, because you had to eat. And then we just hung out, I guess. play cards, a lot of poker. These guys really spend all their money on payday. That's true. When you see those guys do that, that's a true story. I've watched them. And then you just go to work. Show up at work and ask the sergeant, hey, what do we got to fix? And he'd either have something or he wouldn't. Sometimes he didn't have any. So we'd just go in the shed next door and play pinochle until he called one of us. And then we'd work all night. Whatever it took, whatever. When I first went over, it was busy. It was 7 days a week. But then they changed it to 6 and 1. So you work 6 days, you got one off. So you never had the same day off. You just 6 and 1, and then you go 6 and 1, and 6 and 1, 6 and 1. So you never knew. And so the base just ran 24 hours a day the whole time we were over there in the war. I mean, that's the way it was. Everything was working. Nothing was closed. And then we get off work, and the bus would pick us up over here and go all the way down around the fucking thing, drop us off here right again, and we'd start all over.
What were you telling me about? You were sitting on the wings of...
Oh, yeah. We go out to... we go up to work. Sorry, you got any work? No, kind of slow tonight. We got nothing. I'll call you if I need you. All right, we're going to go out and walk around the flight line. Okay. So we go out in the flight line and find an F4 that nobody was working on. We climb up on top, smoke a joint, and watch the other F4s land, because all their afterburner, the blues, as soon as they hit the afterburner, when they hit the ground, the fucking engine just fucking blues and oranges and greens and yellows. I can just see it all. And we'd sit up there, this 21-year-old kid's going, wow, man, did you see that? God damn, that was a good one. And we used to do that. Yeah. We also would be bored. We wouldn't have nothing to do. We weren't playing pinochle. We took a piece of tinfoil and we rolled it up in a ball and put it on a string. Well, these bats were flying all over in front of the door thing. So we would throw this string up in the air, and the bats would try to grab them, and we'd try to pull the bats out of the air with it. True story.
That's a crazy story.
Well, we didn't have nothing to do, so that's what we did.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a pinochle player. We'll have to play sometime.
Oh, God, I've been playing pinochle for years. I haven't played for years, but
Do you play three-hand or four?
Normally forehand.
Okay. I played mostly three, but I'm down to play some four anytime.
Playing sometimes double deck with Doris and Oroville. Oh, God. Yeah.
All right. Did you, when you left, did you have any friends that you left with?
I did. I had one. His name was Randy Nimskern. He was from Chicago, Illinois. And I was stationed with him. Before they went to Vietnam, they sent me to Shreveport, Louisiana for some more training on these airplanes. Well, when I got there, I met him, and then I met another buddy, Mike Yerby. He was from New Mexico. But me and him were even, me and Mike Yerby went back to basic training together, because he got his orders. I got my orders to go to California, and he got his orders to go to New Mexico. Well, 2 years later, we met up in Shreveport. I looked at him, hey, Yerby, is that you? God, he put on something. So I had those two guys. Well, I came over with Randy, and I went home the same day with Randy. And when we walked into Fairfield, I was going to take him and home to Doris and Orville's, and we were going to party it up a little. And when we got to Fairfield, I went in one door, he went in another door. I never saw the man ever again. But I did call him, and I was still married to Dina, so 10 years ago. I go, I got these guys. So she just called fucking Chicago, asked for a phone for Randy Nimskern. Sure enough, it pops up. It's him. I leave a message. The next day I'm laying rug, and I get this message, and he goes, hey. I go, Randy, this is Jay. Do you remember? You know, I told my wife I thought I was in the service with a Pickering because I left a message. So he was in heating and air and had children and grandkids and everything's fine. And then I got a hold of Mike Yerby, but I got a hold of his nephew, and he had died. But the nephew asked me a bunch of questions about him over there, too. So, yeah, we flew home, but when we got into Fairfield, I never saw him again. I felt bad.
What were the difference between the two doors?
Just lines of GIs trying to get out of there.
Oh, okay.
You know, once you get on home, once you come home after a year, you want to go.
Was that Travis?
Yes. Yes, Travis Air Force Base. That's where I left from. That's where I flew back to.
So,
Go ahead.
how long were you in before you got your first leave
In the
in the Air Force?
well, basic training we got nothing. And then once we got to Chinook, Illinois, we just went to school 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And everything else was free time.
No, but I mean, like you would go. Don't you get leave like when you're at war and you get leave?
Well, yeah.
Like on match, when they go to.
Oh, R&R?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a rest and it's called rest and recuperation, R&R. And I did get 5 days R&R, and me and Randy, we flew down to Bangkok. And I spent 5 days in Bangkok, and to everything in the world on my, whoever I got to swear to this day, I have no memory of what I did for 5 days in Bangkok.
I was going to say,
None.
You survived.
None. I remember walking into a motel room with Randy. He got a room. He was single. I got a room. I was married. I don't remember. Next thing I know, we're on the airplane going home. I didn't remember going to the beach. I don't remember doing nothing. I must have just stayed in that room, I guess. He was out chasing the pussy.
Oh, and you weren't.
I was married.
Oh, boy. So, because of that era when like, so many things were changing, with the hippies and the Cold War, the Red Scare, were there cultural differences like within your unit or within like your peers? And if so,
no, not really. We were all together. We were all one for all and all for one, and we were there. I mean, you're only there for a year, so the only people you're going to really meet is the guys you work with in your shop, because there was an instrument shop, and there was an autopilot shop, and then there was a fuel shop, and then there was a fucking engine shop, and then there was a tire shop. So everybody had their thing. So the only people you really knew was my instrument man, unless you met unless you got a bunk, and maybe the guy underneath you is an electrician or whatever, and you spark up a conversation.
Were they pretty much all just middle-class white guys?
Most of them were like me. There was a lot of them like me, just kind of,
That's how I was going to follow up with is like, Northern California surfer dude versus
I
the Bronx.
I had one northern suburb. This guy is my roommate. That dumb son of a bitch. He had no luck. He got gonorrhea 4 different times going downtown, chasing that fucking pussy, and then you had to go to stand in the clap line. Well, the clap line was, if you got it, you just fucking went in. You didn't fucking make any excuses. The doctor told us in the first interview. I've heard them all. He says, but you get 4 shots of penicillin. They put a needle here and a needle here and a needle here and a needle. They stick 4 needles in your butt at the same time and push them, and the next day you got to come back and get 4 more. And that clap line, there was GIs lined up every fucking morning. 50 deep.
I can actually skip ahead. So do you have any, speaking of the clap line and going down to Bangkok, Do you have any lasting ties or interest in the culture, in Thai culture?
Not then I didn't, but now I do, sort of. It's really a beautiful country, but not in 1971 when the war was going on. It wasn't a beautiful country. It was every man for themselves, and the
But he refuses to go back.
Well, I don't need to go back to the Orient. I've been to Hong Kong. I've been to Tokyo. I've been to Okinawa. I've been to the Philippines. I've been over there. I don't need to go back there. I'd like to go north if I went anywhere, Canada, or something. But back then, their culture is still. We were just in Costa Rica 3 years ago when we got married, and it's third world. There's a lot of poor people in the world.
Yeah.
Third world and all that.
And Costa Rica is way more advanced than Nicaragua, where I was.
I know.
But so interested, but no desire to go back.
No, I don't have any desire to go back.
That's fair.
No.
Skip one. All right. Tell me about the tattoo.
Oh, okay. And I was 18 years old, so I could legally get one. And my buddy from high school, John Kroger, he says, "Hey, I'm going downtown in Sac." Well, back then, Rancho Cordova was, considered 15 miles from, 10 miles from Sac. Now it's just 10 miles of housing. But I said, "Yeah, I'll go down." So we went down to Broadway, and there was a Victorian-looking building with the stairs, go straight up. And he went in to get a tattoo, and so he knew what he wanted. He wanted this thing because somebody else in Rancho Cordova had it, the mosquito. So the guy hand drew it. It was $5 back then, and he went in and he goes, "You gonna get one?" And like a peer pressure and a dumb 18-year-old ass, I fucking gave in and said, "Yeah, sure." So he didn't want his parents to see it, so he put it up here. Well, all the other people in Rancho Cordova got it down here on the inside of the left arm. So I got it, and now 8 of my grandchildren or cousins, or nieces or daughters, all got the same tattoo.
Oh, I missed out. I'm running out of room.
Yeah.
Can you describe it, since we can't see it?
It's recording? A drunken mosquito. It was supposed to be a drunken mosquito, and these are bear bubbles. He's burping, and see, he's got a little blood where he's stung on the nose, and that's supposed to be. And that turned out, years later, Ricky Irwin found out a couple of years later that it was It started with a bunch of glue sniffers out of Rancho Cordova. They were putting the airplane glue in their sock and sniffing glue. You never sniffed glue?
Oh my God, no.
I didn't either, but I had friends that did it.
So it held up pretty well for.
Yeah.
When did you get it? Like
I was 18, so.
More than 50 years.
70, 60, 66, 67 years.
Wow.
Now Chrissy's got one. Dylan's got one. Chandler's got one. Blaine's got one. Monica's got one. Rachel's got one. Somebody else probably.
Okay. Well then, I'm going to skip a couple since we're kind of on the off topic. What I wrote here was, so when you were there, or before or after, you mentioned a couple. What were you jamming on? What was your go-to music?
Oh, that's easy. Cream. Fucking the Stones. Hendrix. Joplin. I liked it all.
To this day.
Yeah, all of them. You know, Bob Dylan singing about the war, and then whoever sang that "Poor Dead in Ohio," when they came in and killed those 4 kids on Ohio's campus.
Kent State.
Kent State. 4 dead in Ohio. 4 dead. No, I had a complete stereo system over there. That's what everybody bought, spent your money on, is you could buy it so cheap and send it home. And so I had a complete huge, I had everything, reel to reel, the big reel to reel. I had 75 or 80 music on all that shit. I mean, all kind of full. But yeah.
All right. Does any one band or song pop into mind?
Yeah. There is one song. What is it? Oh. What would you do if I ran out on you?